Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmel, and before we get started, I'll quickly note that I've waded into the waters of online social networking, and there is now a Curling Show group on Facebook. Join it at your own risk. Now on to this edition, when we talk to a woman who's hoping her Saskatchewan background will serve her well at this year's Scotties Tournament of Hearts. The 2008 Ontario Scotties Tournament of Hearts champion, Sherry Middaugh, welcome back to the Curling Show.
Oh, thanks, Dean.
It was a pretty good weekend for the Middaugh household, but let's ignore your husband's semifinal finish at the Capital One Grand Slam and focus on your big win at the Ontario Scotties Tournament of Hearts. You went through the round robin with just one loss, but were beaten by defending champ Krista McCarville in the 1-2-page playoff. I know you spent a lot of time on the mental side of curling, so how did your team deal with that defeat and prepare for the semifinal?
Well, I mean, that's the nice thing that we put ourselves in that first position, which, gave us a chance to lose the 1-2 game if we had to. I mean, you don't want to, but I always say that, I don't mind playing that extra game if you can guarantee me the win in the semifinal. But the team, after the loss in the 1-2 game, we talked about it, and we all had this different feeling about it. We just weren't feeling that confident. It was a close game, but it just wasn't ours, and we just knew that even though, we had that extra game in the semifinal going against scoring, we felt really confident going into that one. So we didn't mind that extra game.
All right, in the final, it sounds like you controlled the game pretty well, but gave up a steal in the 10th that sent the game to an extra end. Again, mentally and everything else, what do you do after that?
Well, it was just a matter of, in the 10th end, they put a rock top button, and we just kept clearing the front, and we didn't really get an opportunity to get rid of the one on the button, so I had to draw the side button in the 10th end, and it just overcurled a bit, but we had great weight. So I said to the girls, just, make sure the front is clear and give me the 4-foot, and we'll nail it, and that's what happened. There was, hardly anything in play, and I only had to draw full 8-foot, and we put our side of the pin. It was great.
Hey, last time we talked, you said your favorite athlete as a kid was Mr. Excitement, Rick Folk. With that much Saskatchewan in you, was it on your mind that you didn't want to miss the chance to play in Regina?
Well, there was a little bit of pressure from my family back home in Saskatchewan. They kept saying, where it is. And I said, I know where it is. I said, regardless of where it is, I want to play at a Scotties. But I think it's just that extra sweet being in Regina.
Hey, your team season, let's talk about it for a moment. It was going along in a sort of average way, I guess, until the Sobeys Grand Slam event at the end of November, where you lost your first two, but then ran off 7 straight victories to win the Spiel. What started to click out there?
Well, it was funny. You're right. Our season was just okay. We had qualified in London and lost the semifinals, and we were curling okay, but just when it came to the championship round, we just couldn't put anything together, and we weren't curling bad, but just not making the great shots when we needed them, and went to Sobeys, like you said, in Nova Scotia, and went 0-2, and we thought, this could be an early exit, but we were asked by the organizing committee to do the School of Rocks. And there were a bunch of kids, from all the maritime provinces there, and we had a blast. And we just said, you know what? Win or lose, we're going to go out there and we're going to have some fun. And the next thing we knew, we were playing in the final and winning it.
So you started to have fun. We
did. It sounds kind of cliche, but we just kind of took the pressure off ourselves and you said, you know what? Look at these kids. They're having fun. They were honored to curl with Team Middaugh, and we said, you know what, this is a fun sport, and this is what it's all about. So we started to play looser, and we played better.
Hey, you followed up the Sobeys Slam by losing in the final of the Canada Cup qualifier to Cheryl Bernard, but that wasn't before you ran off 6 straight wins in that. So have you ever had a streak where you won 13 in a row?
Not at that level. I mean, certainly you can look at going through some smaller spiels, but not at that caliber to rattle off that many wins in a row. And then we also had 3 straight wins in zones, so you can add to that streak. And it was one of those where we were just riding high, and we look back on it, and maybe next year we can say if we want to peak in December and for playdowns, this is the schedule that we need to take. But it would have been nice to peak a little bit sooner, but it's never too late to peak.
Right. It's a very strong field in Regina. What do you tell someone like your lead, Andrea Harmark, a player who's new to the event, to help her prepare?
Well, you're right. She's never been to a Scotties, and for Kim Moore, it's been since 1997. So I think getting out there and getting the hot shots competition underway in our practice, and thankfully we played in an arena in Kamloops in the Canada Cup, but also in the Players Championship. So that's nice to have that familiar feeling. But I think once the people start rolling in for the first draw, there'll be some nerves. But and we're playing Team Canada our first So no
Oh, really?
easy
That's your
matchup
draw,
there.
Team Canada in the first game?
Oh, yes. So I'm sure we'll be TV game, too, just to add that little bit of pressure.
Compare your team's style of play to three of the favorites, Kelly Scott, Shannon Kleibrink, and Jennifer Jones.
I would have to say our style is similar to a Jennifer Jones, but probably a little bit more balanced, where she leans more towards the aggressive. So I would say we're leaning more towards Jennifer and maybe similar to Shannon, but we like rocks in play. We don't shy away from that, and if the ice has got some swing and it's consistent speed, you'll see lots of rocks in play during our games.
Yeah, I thought in the Olympic trials a few years ago, you guys were sort of the most aggressive team, actually. With a new team and a young front end, did you dial it back a little bit?
You're right. During the trials in Halifax, we were quite aggressive just because the ice was great. It had a lot of swing and the speed was consistent. And if I feel confident and draw weight, look out. I don't mind a lot of rocks in play. Now, I think probably the first few games we'll, like you said, dial it down a bit just until we get the nerves underway. But I mean, you can't change your game plan when you know it works. But I think with the balanced attack and, once we get a lead, if we get a lead, start hitting away. But no, I like rocks in play. I enjoy that style. It's comfortable to me and to our team. So hopefully with the ice, I understand it's going to be great ice. So we hope to be very offensive.
Your husband, Wayne, has told me that you put a ton of time into the game, a lot more than him, in fact. Now, you've got a curling resume that's pretty terrific, but you haven't been able to capture a Canadian championship. And in fact, an Ontario team hasn't won since Marilyn Boda in '96. Now, you've probably beaten every team in the field at least once, so have you thought or talked about what it will take to give your team the best possible chance to win in Regina?
Well, I think it's just, going through the round robin like we did up in Espanola at the provincials. We played strong from start to finish, and that's what you want. Often we went into, say, the Scott in Sudbury in 2001, we went 0-3. Like that's a lot of pressure just to make the playoffs. So I think it's just one game at a time. We, of course, have a record in mind that we know will probably make the playoffs, but I think it's just with this type of field, because it's a strong field, just taking one game at a time, one rock at a time, and we're not playing people, we're actually playing shots, and that's a big part of it.
So what do you think the win-loss record that gets you in the playoffs is?
Well, with that field, I think, there's not going to be a runaway. I think we're all going to be kind of clumped in the middle. So, I mean, I think the shootout at the beginning during your practice is going to be huge, for positioning. So we didn't do that very well in Espanola. I think we finished 9th out of 10th in the shootout. So I think that's one thing we're going to focus on. And, 7-4 is always a record that people aim for the Scotties, and wherever you finish, but as long as you finish in the top 4, 1-2 is a bonus. But 7-4 definitely should make it.
Yeah, it's funny. I always think 7-4 gets it, but I'm not so sure if history proves that. I'm not so sure if often with a strong field, it seems like you might almost. Well, no, actually, 7-4 should be able to do it. Anyways, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll have to get Jerry Gertz to crunch the numbers on that.
Yeah, all I know is you just want to make the Final Four at the end, and hopefully you don't get into a whack of tiebreakers, because it's a long week, and we have a pregnant third. Who she's due in July, so if we can limit the games for her, I think that's a bonus.
No, did she not have? She was off last year, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was. She took the year off. She had a baby in November, and she told us she's pregnant again. But at least this one's better planned.
Is this part of a strategy to compress the childbearing into a couple of seasons?
I guess so. We didn't try. We planned ours a little bit better, but 3 years apart. But it's tough with this new qualifying process for the Olympic trials being a 3-year process, and I mean, you can only put your lives on hold for so long, and I'm happy for Kirsten and Trevor, and with this one planned, she's going to be on mat leave for the entire curling season. How good is that?
Well, there you go. That's a Canadian advantage there for sure.
Exactly.
It is true. It's more of a challenge for women, the 4-year process, than it is for the men, of course, since we don't have to have children. I mean, we don't bear children.
You don't bear children. You still have children.
We have to have them, yes. We just don't have to carry them, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it is more of a challenge for a woman, of us, trying to squeeze it in.
It is. It's just, and there's a lot of young girls out there that are thinking, okay, put your life on hold for the Olympic trials. And we seem to do that. And fortunately enough, I've been at 3 Olympic trials and fit children around that. But if the qualifying process stays the same for the next Olympic trials, I'm not sure what you're going to see in curling. It's going to be a tough go for the sport.
Finally, we're talking about the Olympic trials, and Wayne is your husband. I keep talking about Wayne here. I don't mean to do that, but he's one of the curlers who isn't especially enamored of the Olympic influence on curling. What's your take on that?
Well, I think anything that brings profile to the sport is a good thing, but I've also comparing the process of how the Olympic trials, how we used to do it, and just how the game is changing, and it's becoming very serious, which is fine. I mean, you need to be an athlete to curl, but it's just, unfortunately, the fun aspect of the game, which is something that I think brings the grassroots, and it's just, that is changing, and that's the sad part of it. I mean, we're bringing corporate support to the sport, which is fantastic. I think the numbers are still good, but it's just, I don't know, the fun aspect, you don't see it as much at the high levels, and that's sad to see.
I think you touched on it with the 4-year cycle. I do think that is a challenge in Canada. I mean, I think, I know Brad Gushu criticized that. I think we're going to see teams that stick together when all the chemistry is gone because they sort of have to.
Well, you do. You have to stick together, or you lose some points, and it's a very stressful process to go hard for that many years financially. Also, work commitments. You can only tell your employer so often that you're leaving, and family, and it's getting harder. And I think you're just going to get teams that really burn out, and because they're losing that fun aspect. I mean, we don't make a lot of money at this sport, so if you're not enjoying it, there's not much reason to do it.
And if you really think about it, Canada probably wants the team that is doing well in the 1 or 2 years before the trials, not the team that did well, 3 or 4 years before that.
Yeah, like I can see that they want the team that's proven themselves, not just kind of that one-shot team. But I think if you look at the teams that we've sent in previous Olympics, I mean, they weren't bad teams. So I think any process, because we have such a depth of teams, any process they get to determine the Olympic team is going to be a good one. And I mean, it's trial and error, right? So, hopefully once this 2010 is over and our Olympic teams do really well and bring home medals, we can discuss it and see what's best for the sport.
All right, Sherry, we finished with the run back. I give you a topic and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Okay.
All right, Team Cooey's retro look at the last Capital One Grand Slam.
Absolutely love it.
How about plaid pants for women?
Makes us look hippie.
I don't know. I think I'd be buying plaid pants if they're available, but I want to see them. Espanola, Ontario.
Treated like royalty.
Barack Obama.
I'm gonna win it.
Oh, there you go. Hey, good. I just threw that in there just to see if I could get something on that.
We follow American politics.
Oh, I know
up here.
You do. I grew up in Canada. I know what it's like, but. Sneaking into last year's Strauss Canada Cup when Kelly Scott won the Tournament of Hearts final.
Yes, and didn't we perform well there?
It didn't work out too well, but what was it like to cheer for Kelly Scott that much?
It was interesting. I can't say that I often cheer for my competitors, but it was a selfish cheering.
Yeah, you had a vested interest there, didn't you?
We did, very much.
All right, Sherry, we give everybody a chance to name their sponsors, so let me know who's backing your team this year.
We have 3 sponsors. Our major sponsors are M&M Meat Shop, Dominion of Canada General Insurance, and we have products supplied by Balance Plus.
All right, Sherry, thanks very much for your time. And congratulations on the win, and good luck in Regina.
Great. Thanks very much, Dean.
That's Sherry Middaugh on The Curling Show. Longtime listeners might have noticed, or at least I hope you noticed, some improvement in the audio quality of this edition. I've upgraded a bit with some new hardware and some noise reduction software. Not quite a CBC studio yet, but I hope it sounds better than it has in the past. Thanks for listening, and here's the band that needs no noise reduction, Black Pudding.